You hear that sound? That ain't just the rumble of pistons, son. That's the heartbeat of a jagged piece of iron that's been eating my life for 42 years straight, mile by mile, gallon by gallon. My old Peterbilt 379, painted the color of a Montana midnight, is sitting here at high idle on the edge of some godforsaken truck stop in Iowa. I can feel every vibration through the soles of my worn-out boots, like my own nerves are laid bare, touching the floorboards. They say when you're behind the wheel this long, your blood starts smelling like diesel, and your eyes get used to seeing the world through a windshield splattered with bug guts and winter road salt. And that's the gospel truth. I don't even remember what it's like to wake up in a bed that don't rock from the wind or the draft of another rig hauling ass past you, shaking your whole world like a scared animal. My life is a horizon line that's always running away, and a white stripe down the middle of the asphalt that hypnotizes you for hours until you start wondering if you're even alive anymore, or if you've just become a part of this machine made of chrome, steel, and rubber. Over the years, I've seen everything this country's got to show. I've seen fires in the canyons of Utah where the sky turns orange and thick like apricot jam. I've seen ice storms in Wyoming where the wind is so mean it'll flip your trailer like an empty Budweiser can. And then there's those long, soul-crushing nights in Nebraska where there ain't nothing for hundreds of miles but the dark and your own thoughts getting way too loud in your skull. Folks think being a trucker is all country song romance, freedom and the wind in your face. Hell no. It's a chronic ache in your lower back, it's cold coffee from a vending machine that tastes like paint thinner, it's eyes burning red from lack of sleep, and it's that constant gnawing guilt about the family you only ever saw on faded Polaroids taped to the dash next to the oil pressure gauge. My ex-wife Mary once told me, and this was the jagged edge of it all, that I was married to the road, and she was just some hitchhiker I picked up for a short haul and dropped on the shoulder the second I got bored of looking at her. I got mad back then, slammed the door so hard the glass rattled, and left for a 3-week run without looking back. Now sitting here in this cab that smells like my tobacco and old leather, I know she was right. The road is a jealous, spiteful mistress. She takes everything from you. Your friends, your health, your time, your daughter's wedding, your father's funeral. But in return, she gives you something an office cubicle jockey will never understand. She gives you the truth of who you really are when you're all alone with the highway at 3 a.m., with nothing but the blackness and a 3-hour drive to the nearest living soul. Every mile of this damned asphalt has a price, and I paid it regular, right up until one night she sent me a bill I nearly paid with my life. This was 15 years back, but I remember every tick of the tachometer and every crunch of gravel under the tires. I was hauling a load of high-end electronics from Seattle to Chicago, stuff that had to be on the shelves by Christmas, and my dispatcher promised a hell of a bonus if I made it on time. November was acting crazy that year. The weather in the Idaho mountains was flipping every 10 miles. First it was a heavy rain, then it turned into a slushy mess of snow and sleet, and under the tires, that black ice started to form. That's the most treacherous snake in the world. The road looks just wet, but as slick as a barroom floor. You don't notice the danger until your rig starts having a mind of its own, and in that second you realize 40 tons behind your back is now your master, not the other way around. I was worn down to the marrow of my bones. I hadn't slept in nearly 30 hours, keeping myself together on black coffee and whites to keep my eyes open. My dispatcher, some kid in a tie who probably thought a semi was just a big car, was riding my ass over the CB every hour. "Jack, you're behind schedule." "Jack, the clients are nervous." I wanted to tell him where to shove it, but I needed the money. Mary had just served the divorce papers, and the lawyers were eating my savings like termites in an old barn. I was rolling through Lolo Pass, a wild, gloomy place where the mountains squeeze the road like they're trying to crush it. The radio was Hessian white noise because signal up there is a joke. I was fiddling with the knob on my Cobra, just hoping to hear a human voice because the silence in the cab was starting to feel physical, like it was pressing on my chest. And then, through the static, I heard a voice. It wasn't some gravel-voiced driver warning about a bear in the bushes. It was a woman's voice, thin and terrified, cutting through the noise like a blade. "He's coming for me. Please, somebody, he's getting close." I sat bolt upright, the sleepiness gone like it was never there. My hand hit the mic. "Who is this? Where are you?" "Channel 19. Who's on the air?" Give me a landmark. Nothing back but the whistle of the wind in the ether and a distant, barely audible sob. I tried again, but the radio went dead. I figured it was just Skip Trace or some sick joke, but my heart was hammering against my ribs. The road took a sharp dive. The turns got tighter, and visibility dropped to near zero in the snow squall. I dropped a gear, the Peterbilt growling as the engine brake kicked in. And there, right in the center of my high beams, I saw her. She was standing in the middle of the road. No coat, just a light dress flapping in the wind like the wings of a broken bird. I mashed the brakes. The rig shuddered. The trailer started to dog a little to the side, but I held it. I stopped a few feet from her. The air brakes gave that loud hiss that sounded like a gunshot in the mountain silence. I jumped out of the cab, didn't even have my boots on right, just my socks on the cold steps and then the wet asphalt. That Idaho cold bit through my sweater instantly. "Lady, are you out of your mind? I could have flattened you like a pancake," I yelled, waving my arms. She didn't answer. She didn't even flinch at my shouting. She was looking right past me, into the thick black of the forest where the pines were swaying in the storm. Her face was so white it looked like it was glowing in the dark. She was young, just a girl, really. When I got closer, I saw she was shaking so hard it looked like her bones might snap. "He won't stop," she whispered. It was the same voice from the radio. "He never stops." I looked around. Empty road, just my Pete idling, puffing stacks of steam. No other cars, no lights. Just us two in the middle of a frozen hell. "Who won't stop? What are you talking about?" I grabbed her elbow, and it felt like an electric shock. She was cold, not just chilly, but cold, like a block of ice that's been in the deep freeze for a week. "Get in the truck, fast. You're gonna turn into a popsicle out here." I practically hauled her into the cab. She was light, like there was no weight to her at all. I sat her in the jump seat, threw my old parka over her shoulders, and cranked the heater to the max. The air coming out of the vents was hot, smelling like oil and dust, but she didn't even move to warm her hands. She just sat there, fingers gripping the edge of the seat, staring into the side mirror. "Where's your car? You in a wreck?" I asked, trying to find my thermos of coffee. She slowly turned her head toward me. Her eyes, there was no life in them, son. Just a bottomless, deep-seated sorrow, and that same paralyzing dread. "You shouldn't have stopped, Jack," she said. My blood turned to slush. "How do you know my name, kid?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed a finger at the rearview mirror. I looked, and the hair on the back of my neck stood straight up. Way back, on the crest of the hill I'd just come over, a light appeared. One single headlight, yellow, dim, flickering like the eye of some sickly beast. And it was closing in, fast. Way too fast for a road like this. "It's him," she whispered, and the cab got so cold my breath turned into a thick cloud, even with the heater blasting. I didn't wait. Something in my gut, that instinct that's kept me out of the ditch for 40 years, screamed, "Run!" I slammed it into gear, and the Pete lunged forward. I rode through the gears, making that engine scream like it wanted to jump out of the hood. We were flying down that mountain, ignoring every safety rule in the book. The trailer was wagging behind us. I could hear the electronics flying around in the back, but I didn't give a damn. That light behind us wouldn't fade. It hung on my tail, and now I could see the silhouette of the truck in the glow of my own marker lights. It was an old, mangled rig. Some pre-war Mac or International, covered in rust, with a smashed-in grill that looked like a snarling mouth. No plates, and the cab was dark. No dash lights, nothing. Just that one yellow headlight. He pulled up so close his iron bumper was almost kissing my ICC bar. I floored it, but that rusty bucket of bolts stayed right there, like it was tied to me with an invisible cable. "He wants to take me," the girl said quietly. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just waiting. We were heading straight into the mouth of the elbow turn, the nastiest spot on Lolo Pass, where the road narrows to 2 lanes and there's nothing below you but air. The needle was shaking at 80. Taking that turn at that speed is Russian roulette with a full cylinder. But the rusty bastard behind me didn't leave me a choice. He started to pass. The radio exploded with static again, but it wasn't a voice this time. It was a sound that made my teeth ache, metal grinding on metal, like 1,000 knives on a giant whetstone. The rusty cab of that Mac pulled up, even with my door. I stole a glance to the left and felt my heart just stop. The glass in his door was a spiderweb of cracks, but behind it, there was nothing. Just clouds of black smoke swirling in the cab, and a tattered driver's seat. The wheel was spinning all by itself. "Watch the road, Jack," the girl yelled. I looked back just in time. We were hitting the turn. I felt the centrifugal force pulling my Pete toward the ledge. My trailer tires caught the snow berm, kicking up a white cloud. And right then, the ghost truck jerked his wheel into me. The hit came at my left front steer tire. My rig bucked, the wheel whipped out of my hands, bashing my fingers. We started tipping to the right, Not today, I screamed at the dark. I didn't hit the brakes. That would have been the end. I mashed the throttle, trying to pull the rig out of the slide with raw horsepower. The peat roared, spitting black smoke. I yanked the wheel left, feeling my front axle hanging over the abyss for a heartbeat. Metal screamed. The rusty truck was pinning me to the edge, trying to shove me into the fog-filled canyon. Then the girl did something I'll never forget. She reached out her thin, translucent hand and laid it over mine on the steering wheel. The cold was so intense I lost feeling in my fingers, but with it came a strange peace. Time seemed to slow down. I saw every snowflake hit the glass. I felt my Peterbilt suddenly find its feet, like a giant invisible hand was pushing us back up from underneath. With a roar, the rusty Mack suddenly swerved, like it hit a wall. Its headlight flared brilliant white and shattered. The whole machine started falling apart. The hood flew into the dark. The cab buckled. Without a sound, that phantom plunged into the gorge. No explosion. No flash. Just the black hole swallowing it whole. I hit the brakes, and this time the Pete obeyed, stopping 3 inches from the edge. I sat there gripping the wheel, listening to the metal tink-tink-tink as it cooled. My breath was coming in fast white puffs. I slowly turned to the jump seat. It was empty. Just my parka lay there, folded neat, like nobody had ever put it on. On the dash, right under the St. Christopher medal my mama gave me, sat a small silver hair clip shaped like a butterfly. It was covered in frost. I got out on shaky legs. The snow had stopped. The sky was clear, and a billion stars were looking down with cold curiosity. I walked to the edge and looked down. Deep in the canyon lay the remains of a truck. But it wasn't fresh. It was a rusted-out skeleton that had been down there for decades, buried in snow and choked by brush. There were no fresh tracks, just my own tire marks leading to the edge and back. When I finally made it to the next truck stop, I looked like I'd been to hell and back. I sat in a booth and ordered the strongest coffee they had. The old waiter looked at me. "You saw him, didn't you?" he asked quiet. "The yellow-eyed driver. He hunts the ones in a hurry. But sometimes Elizabeth gets there first. She won't let him take any more souls. She can't leave as long as he's out there." I didn't say a word. I just pulled that silver butterfly clip out of my pocket. The waiter saw it, his eyes went wide, and he crossed himself before walking away. That was 15 years ago. I haven't sped since. I'm that old guy in the right lane everyone cusses at over the radio. I don't care. I've seen what's waiting at the end of the road for the ones who don't know how to stop. Now I'm looking at the sun setting over Iowa. My retirement's overdue. My daughter calls every week, telling me to come to California and play with the grandkids. She's right. But I can't leave, because sometimes, when I'm rolling through Idaho, my radio comes alive. Through the static, I hear a whisper. "Thank you, Jack. Drive safe." And I know as long as I'm behind the wheel, she ain't alone on that pass. I pick up the butterfly clip, squeeze it in my palm, and feel that faint chill. It ain't fear. It's a reminder. We're all in a hurry, son, but the road isn't about how fast you get there. It's about who's left of you when the sun goes down and you're looking at the shadow in the mirror. My engine's running smooth. Oil pressure's good. 1,000 miles to go. I'm putting it in gear, and my old iron bastard is heading into the night. I don't know how much road I got left, but I know one thing. When my time comes, I won't be scared. I'll just open the door, and she'll be there on the shoulder, waiting to finally show me the way home. The haul continues. Take it easy, kid. Don't rush. The road remembers everything, and she always collects her dues.